All right, hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I have here the faux rice paper, which I'm sure most of you know how to make at this point. I will do a quick tutorial on that just in case you don't know, but it's just using some tissue paper and some, this one was done with just leftover dried tea. But I have several others that I did that use flowers and stuff. So this is just kind of making the faux rice paper, but we're going to do a little twist on it today. So if you want to get to that part, go ahead and skip to this time. Cool. And then really quickly here, I'll demonstrate just really fast for people who don't know how to make this rice paper, how to do that. So you need a piece of plastic. You can use, trash bags. You can use leftover packaging, pretty much anything that's plastic, but you need it to be plastic so that it can peel off once it's dry. The other thing you need is a mix of PVA glue and water. For me, it is a 50-50 mix, and I'm just using Elmer's school glue. And then you need some tissue paper, or you can also use, I've used cheesecloth, I've used old tea bags, so, once you've finished using the tea, you can pull that apart and use that. But the important thing is you want it to be down to just one ply. So you got to make sure you pull them apart so that it's just one ply. And then a paintbrush and anything else you want to put in it. So here I have the leftovers of some tea. I have some dried flowers. You can use string for extra texture and stuff. But yeah, really fast, I'll just run you through how we do this, and then we'll get on to the more interesting part of the video for those of you who already know how to do this. So what I will do is take my glue mix here and a paintbrush, and I'm just going to put a little layer down on my plastic. Like I said, you can use packaging for this. I use the acetate because I have tons of it. And honestly, when I make these, I'm usually doing a whole bunch at a time. And this just makes it a little easier for me. And you'll lay down your tissue and then go over it with another layer. And you want to make sure to fully saturate it, so you don't want any parts that are still white showing through. Okay, and then once that's fully saturated, I can see I've still got a little bit of white over there on the edge. But once that's fully saturated, you're going to add whatever you want to in here. So I have some extra pieces of string here. This is just from when I tear apart my fabrics. I end up with a little extra thread. And you don't want anything to build up too much because it'll create air pockets later, and you don't want any air pockets. So make sure whatever you're putting down, it's nice and spread out. Okay. And then I have just some dried leaves. When you're doing this, you do want to make sure not to get anything that's too thick in there. Like this is too thick, and when you go to bend the paper or anything later, it will just tear right through it. So just something to keep in mind. And then I have this dried lily, which I'll just do the same thing. And this is just to give it a little bit of texture, give it that kind of handmade paper look. the like recycled paper. Yeah, something just like that. And then we'll take the other piece of our tissue here and just lay it right on top. I like to give it a little press down so it doesn't start moving around on me, but it's not really necessary. And then you're just going to go through with one more layer of your water and glue mixture. When you're doing this step, you want to make sure that there's no air bubbles being trapped in between the layers. And if you accidentally go a little heavy-handed and end up tearing through the tissue, you can just layer another piece of tissue on top of where the tear is. But if you're pretty gentle with it, I very rarely end up with any tears, so make sure that's fully saturated. We don't have any air bubbles anywhere. And that looks good. So then, once you've done that, you just set it to the side and let it dry. Like I said, usually I do quite a few of them all at once. So I usually just end up letting it dry overnight. It doesn't really need that long. A couple of hours will do it. But once it's dry, it just peels right off the plastic, and then you have these lovely papers. So let me set that to the side. We'll pull this one. So this is one that I just pulled off. I made this yesterday. And as you can see, you end up with little bits of glue on the sides. You can just tear that off. But it leaves you with this really pretty paper that you can use for all kinds of stuff. So collaging, you can make, you know, envelopes out of it, whatever. It is pretty malleable. But what I want to use it for is I actually want to use these for journaling pages. And the problem that I have with that is because the nature of how you make these, it ends up with one side that's shiny. You can't get around that. There's going to be a shiny side. That's the whole nature of putting it on the piece of plastic and using the glue the way you do. But with the shiny side, you don't really want to use that in journals too much because, I mean, yeah, you can write on this, but because it's, you know, glossy, the ink's going to want to smudge around a lot. It's going to take a really long time to dry. I want to avoid that. So I was asking myself the question, you know, what can I do to get rid of this shine? I am not going to lie to you guys. I struggled with it for a really, really, really long time before I finally came up with an answer. And it was like this huge epiphany moment for me. And it's going to sound so stupid, but it is what it is. You know, I was trying to figure out how I can make this not shiny. And well, I finally came to the conclusion that you can use clear gesso. I know. It's it's a pretty obvious answer, right? But I wasn't thinking about it. So I have tried this. I do know that the clear gesso works, but clear gesso can be a little bit on the more expensive side. So today we're going to try out a couple different options. And I thought I'd do that with you guys so you can see the results, you know, decide which one will work best for you. So I'm going to quickly, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 different options. So I'm quickly just going to split this into 7 sections. All right. Is that perfect? No. Do I need it to be perfect? No. And then quickly, I'm going to go through with just a permanent marker. If I can find where I put my permanent marker. There it is. and I'll write down the different options so we can see once they've dried which options are going to work best for us. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do just another layer of our 50-50 PVA and water mix. So 50-50. The next one we're going to do is we're going to go in with just the Elmer's school glue and see if that will give us a matte finish. After that, we're going to try a matte Mod Podge, see how that goes. Trying not to smudge that. And then I have the clear gesso, which I already know works, but we're going to test it against the other ones and see what's the best option. I also have a matte medium that we're going to test out. We're also going to try my matte gel medium. So this was the fluid. And this will be, the gel. And then, just for giggles, I just kind of want to see if it'll work. And also, if it does, then I can use this for watercolor paper, which would be super, super fun. Is I do have some watercolor grounds that we're going to try out. So I'm going to give that a second for all those to dry off, and then we'll start testing this. Okay, so I let those dry off, and we'll go ahead and get started on testing these out. I have high hopes for this one, the 50-50, because, I mean, it is what we used, you know, to get this lovely matte color, or matte color, matte finish on the front. But I'm a little worried with it being shiny here that it won't want to adhere correctly. So let's see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for a little while. I'll be back with you guys in a bit. All right, we're back. The good news is, I know it's going to be really, really hard for you guys to see this, but the good news is every single one of these worked. So where I put it down, there's no longer that glossy finish. Even the 50-50 took perfectly, so that's excellent news. Really quick, what we'll do is I'll test a couple of pens, a little bit of watercolor and stuff on this just to see how it's reacting with those different things on there. So I'm going to use my Uniball here. This is a pretty like wet inky pen, so it'll give us a good idea. Okay, that goes down really well. It is still pulling a little bit on the 50-50. The Elmer's, I can see it's still, yeah, a little wet. Let's try the Mod Podge. That one absorbed almost immediately. But, I mean, you can see now I've given it just a little bit of time and they're not smudging. So that's great. The clear gesso does have more tooth to it than any of the other ones. So this pen is still taking a while to dry on all of them, it looks like. But it is working. So, okay, cool. This is, like I said, a really inky pen, so it is going to take a little bit to dry, but it's, ooh, that fluid matte medium did not do so hot with that. So yeah, all of those are going to work. With that kind of pen, you are going to need to give it a little extra dry time, but not as much as if you put it where the shine was, so that's good to know. Let's grab my Tombow and see how that works. Perfect. It's not pulling at all. This one does dry a little faster. But I mean, this is working. This is working great. That's excellent. I am quite pleased with that. Let's check the, yeah, so the fluid matte medium seems to be the one that still is taking a little bit longer to dry. I do want to test just a little bit of watercolor over here. Just grab one of my, should we test it on all of them? I guess we can, right? So the Mod Podge does not want to take it, so that's a good thing to know. These two seem to do it pretty well, actually, the 50-50 mix and the Elmer's actually work pretty well for watercolor. Who would have known? Not me. The clear gesso should do well because it is a gesso. Let's try these. And of course the watercolor ground. Well, those are all working out pretty well. And yeah, definitely the smoothest on the watercolor ground, but that's what it's for. So that's actually pretty cool. I don't know if you can see this on the camera or not, but there is a shine to this because I have, my watercolor ground is pearlescent white. So there is a shine to this, but it's not glossy like it was before. So that's really nice. Good to know, good to know. Let's try a little bit of Distress Oxide just to see how it's going to interact. So it's taking down there really nicely. And yeah, it's not really smudging or anything, so that's good. A little bit of smudge with the Mod Podge, but I'm sure if you just give it a little bit of time to dry, it should be fine. Okay, so those all seem to work pretty well. None of that's pulling, so yeah, excellent. Let's add a little bit of water, see if we still get our distress effects. Okay, so something to note, both the 50-50 and the Elmer's glue, it is working, but because of the glue underneath, maybe it's not it wasn't 100% dry or something. It is trying to pull apart my little tissue here. Well, that works. Cool. Well, so what did this tell us? Any of these will work. That's pretty awesome. I'm excited about that. So obviously the cheapest option is going to be to just do the same thing that you did on the front, go with the 50-50, or, you know, whatever your mix is, 75-25, whatever. But just your PVA and water mixture. That's obviously going to be the, you know, cheapest option. But most of these work. The Mod Podge didn't work great with the watercolor, but if you're not using watercolor, I think it's completely feasible to use that one. Let's see. I think I like the grit from the clear gesso, but it's not necessary. The fluid matte medium also has a little bit more grit to it, as well as the watercolor ground. That is because it is made to, you know, use with watercolors, so you want a little bit of grit. The Mod Podge is probably the smoothest of all of them, but yeah, all of these work. So I think for me, if all I'm doing is writing, I'm definitely going to go with the 50-50. If I do want to use other kinds of mediums and stuff, I would suggest either the clear gesso or the fluid matte medium. But literally any of these will work. So that's really, really cool. I'm so excited. I can finally use these to make pages in my journals instead of just using them as collage fodder and stuff. So that's really fun. Yeah, look at that. So you can see, put it on the lighter part here so you can actually see, you can see through to the other side. Obviously, these are really thin papers, but it's, you know, it's up to you how you want to use them. I've just really wanted to put these in journals for a while and didn't want to because of the glossy finish. Really quickly, I'll show you what I mean by that, just in case you don't know. Let's see. So this is my Uniball again. And this spot here is still that glossy from earlier. So if I put that down, see how much that wants to smudge? Gross. But yeah, so now with any of these, you don't have to worry about it smudging as much. My least favorite's the Mod Podge. I just don't like the texture. But if you have it, it definitely works. So yeah, I hope this was helpful for you guys. I was actually not expecting like every single one of these to work, but clearly they did. So that's really good news for all of us. I'm super happy I figured out the watercolor ground, because that's really nice for being able to add, you know, maybe a little illustration or something on top of it. I love using watercolor, so that's great news for me. So yeah, basically all of these work, and the Mod Podge and the fluid matte medium are still a little wet where I did the watercolor. The rest of them have dried off. So yeah, you can now, you know, decide which option would work best for you, but now you have a no shine option for your faux rice papers. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you. It was definitely helpful for me. I'm gonna have to go through now, and I mean, I have literally tons of these papers that I now have to go through and make all the shiny sides no longer shiny. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like down below. I hope this was as helpful for you as it was for me. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.